All right, let's dive into the pretty wild story of OpenAI. It's a fascinating look at a company that started out super cautious, then slammed the door shut to become famously closed off, and now they've come full circle, shaking up the entire industry all over again. And that brings us to the big question, right? How on earth did the company behind the super secretive, super proprietary GPT-4 suddenly turn around and release powerful new models that, anyone can download and use? The answer tells us a whole lot about where the AI world is heading. So to really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. Our story kicks off back in 2019 with a model that really sent shockwaves through the AI community and basically set the stage for everything that was to come. When GPT-2 was first announced, OpenAI did something kind of weird. Instead of just dropping the most powerful version on the world, they held it back on purpose. For 9 months, they only released smaller, less powerful versions. They worked with researchers to study the risks, to see what could go wrong. Only then, after all that, did they finally release the full 1.5 billion parameter model. They called it Responsible Stage Disclosure. So what was the big deal? What were they so afraid of? Well, their fears were very real. We're talking about the power to create fake news on an industrial scale, to perfectly impersonate people in emails, or to automate nasty, abusive comments online. The idea was to hit the pause button, to give everyone time to think about the dangers before the tech was fully out there. Safety first, speed second. But then, right after all that caution with GPT-2, they did a complete 180. This is when the open AI that most of us know today was born. The era of the closed-off, top-secret commercial model. When they dropped bombshells like GPT-3 and the models that followed, the playbook was thrown out the window. These new AIs, they weren't released to the public at all. Nope, they were locked away behind a paid API. If you wanted to tap into OpenAI's latest and greatest, you had to pay to play. And look, this wasn't just some random move. There were some really complex reasons for it. For starters, the models were getting way more powerful, and so were the safety worries. But it was also about business. They had to protect their breakthroughs, their secret sauce. They had to stay ahead of the competition. And maybe most importantly, they had to make money to fund the insane cost of building the next big thing. But that wasn't the end of the road, not even close. After years of this closed strategy, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman dropped this bombshell. He actually said, "We were on the wrong side of history on open source." I mean, wow. That single sentence was a huge sign that another massive change was coming. And that brings us right up to today, Act 3 of this story, OpenAI's big return to the world of open. But this time, it's a whole new game with a much savvier, much more strategic approach. Okay, to really get this new chapter, we need to nail down a super important difference. OpenAI's new models aren't open source in the traditional sense. They're open weight. What does that mean? It means they're releasing the trained parameters, the brains of the AI, if you will, but they're keeping the source code and all the training data under lock and key. It's a strategic middle ground, giving developers the freedom to build cool stuff while protecting the core recipe. And when you put the old and new approaches side by side, one thing just jumps out. With GPT-2, the code was out there, but the license was pretty restrictive. With GPT-Is, the weights are out, but the license is Apache 2.0. Now that's the key, because that license explicitly allows for commercial use. This is a huge deal. OpenAI is basically telling the world, go on, build a business with our tech. So why the change of heart? Why now? Well, it wasn't just one thing. First, the competition was getting fierce. You have open models like Meta's Llama that were becoming incredibly popular. Plus, businesses were screaming for more control, more customization, and especially more privacy. But it's also about a bigger mission. Making AI more accessible for everyone, sparking faster innovation, and trying to help set a global standard for how AI should be built. And they are not messing around. Their new flagship open-weight model is an absolute powerhouse, rocking roughly 120 billion parameters. And get this, it has a massive 128,000 token context window. Now, what does that actually mean for you? It means it can digest and think about huge amounts of text. We're talking entire legal contracts, dense financial reports, or huge chunks of code, all in one go. So OpenAI actually dropped 2 different models to cover all the bases. You've got the 120 billion parameter powerhouse, which is for the really heavy lifting, complex math, coding, deep reasoning on big data center hardware. But then you have the Edge Runner, a smaller, nimbler model designed to run right on a consumer laptop. And that is a game changer for privacy, letting you run powerful AI locally on your own machine. So with this GPT-Os release, OpenAI has officially jumped onto a whole new battlefield. It's a fight that's not just about who has the single best model, but about who can build the biggest and most innovative community. And they are not walking into an empty field here. The open model space is already packed with giants. You've got Meta's Llama 3, which is the king of popularity in general use. You've got the super efficient models from Mistral that are amazing for running on your phone or laptop. OpenAI is trying to carve out its own space in this crowded arena by focusing on top-tier reasoning and security. This whole move just throws gasoline on the fire of the biggest debate in AI. On one hand, you have this incredible promise, more transparency, faster innovation for everybody, and access for people who could never afford it before. But the flip side, the peril is just as real. The risk of bad actors misusing the tech, a lack of clear accountability, and huge questions about privacy. This tension, it's at the absolute heart of the AI revolution. So in the end, OpenAI isn't picking a side anymore. They're done with choosing between open or closed. Their new philosophy is a both-and strategy. They're going to keep building their elite, world-class proprietary models like GPT-4, while at the same time they're going to empower the entire community with these powerful open-weight models. It's a hybrid approach, designed to let them compete and win on every single front. And this leaves us with one final, fascinating question to chew on. As this new chapter of AI unfolds, what's going to determine who wins? Is it the company with the single best, most powerful model locked in a vault? Or is it the company that builds the most vibrant, open, and innovative platform? With this move, OpenAI is betting it can be both.